Hi, and welcome back. Today, we're breaking down the results of Cross 21, a pivotal chapter in my Snow White breeding program. My primary objective has always been to stabilize a pure Snow White line, but for this specific pairing, I hit a significant bottleneck. I didn't have a single Snow White female available in the room. Consequently, I had to pivot to the next best candidate, a Halfblack Snow White female. Her fry have finally matured, providing a clear look at their phenotypic distribution, and today we'll find out exactly how much of this brood inherited that dominant half-black trait versus the pure white gull. If you're new to the channel, I'm Ivan. This project is a long-term documentation of my journey to stabilize these genetics, with the ultimate goal of gene stacking traits like iridescent foreheads and different finnage one generation at a time. However, trying to recap years of pedigree history and the complex trait inheritance in a single 15-minute video would be impossible. Therefore, I've built a dedicated home for that data at ivansguppies.com. There, you'll find the records for crosses 1 through 11 and a full pedigree chart that lets you trace every fish back to my original founders. It's a work in progress as I catch up to my YouTube uploads, but having that chart open in another tab will help you visualize the family tree as we dive into today's numbers. Before we dive into the phenotypes of the offspring, we need to look at the selection of the parents. The father of Cross 21 is a Snow White male from Cross 11, which remains my most stable, true breeding brood to date. This specific line was so genetically reliable that members of Cross 11 have anchored nearly half of my recent work, appearing in crosses 15 through 20. I originally labeled this male C11BM, and since he also sired Cross 18, he has effectively become a patriarch in the fish room. Because he has now entered his second major cross, I've decided he deserves a proper name. Following the theme of my late Guppy Thorn and a great community suggestion, I'm naming him Umaroth, after the white dragon from the Aragon series. Naming him isn't just about sentiment. It marks his role in a specific subproject, the iridescent forehead. One of my secondary goals is to isolate and amplify that localized metallic sheen on top of the head to give the Snow Whites more pop. Umaroth expresses this trait. Consequently, I've selected him to see if he can concentrate these genes in the next generation and move closer to a fixed iridescent line. I would have paired Umaroth with another pure Snow White female to lock in that phenotype, but as I mentioned, my available stock was depleted. I could have resorted to a sibling cross with one of his sisters. However, I've made it a personal challenge to avoid sibling pairings whenever possible. Instead, I chose a female with excellent form who only deviated from the goal by a single trait, Halfblack. Labeled C16AF, she actually came from Cross 16, where a half-black male was paired with a Snow White female. This makes Cross 21 a reciprocal version of her parents' cross. This time, the female carries the half-black trait, while the male does not. For the sake of clarity, the only variable we're tracking in Cross 21 is the half-black gene. We're going to ignore other traits that make up the Snow White phenotype, like blonde, magenta, Storsbach, and European Blau. Because both parents are likely homozygous for these traits, we can assume the entire brood will be homozygous for them as well. Therefore, we can strip away the background noise and focus entirely on the inheritance of a single gene. To understand why this cross is so specific, we have to look back at the mother's history. C16AF came from a brood where 100% of the females were half-black, but 95.5% of the males were pure white. This massive split between the sexes confirmed that the half-black trait was sex-linked on the X chromosome. Consequently, it proved that C16AF is heterozygous, meaning she carries the dominant half-black gene on only one of her X chromosomes and not the other. With those genetics established, we can set up a 2x2 Punnett square to predict the outcome. At the top, we have Umaroth. Since he is a pure Snow White, he doesn't carry the half-black trait on either of his X or Y chromosomes. The notation for half-black is NiI2, short for nigrocodatus 2. On the left, we have C16AF. Because she is heterozygous, her offspring will either inherit the X chromosome carrying the dominant half-black trait or the X chromosome without it. As we fill in the squares, the theoretical math suggests that exactly 50% of the offspring should inherit the half-black trait, regardless of their sex. This is where it gets interesting. In the mother's original brood, the trait was split strictly down gender lines. However, in our new pairing, the theory predicts an even distribution across the entire tank. So it's time to see if the real-world results actually follow the textbook. To maintain statistical consistency across my project, I've implemented a 3-drop rule. I only consider the first 3 substantial broods from a female. Therefore, I can ensure a standardized comparison between crosses while speeding up the turnover of my tanks. For C16AF, these drops occurred between August and October. I subsequently removed the fry cover, assuming any further newborns would be eaten. But, to my surprise, a 4th drop managed to survive a 2-month hiatus in January. However, to keep the data set clean and consistent with my other crosses, I'm excluding these bonus fry from today's distribution, though they will eventually be documented on my website. Returning to our 46 tracked fry, the sex ratio was almost perfectly split, 22 males and 24 females. For those who have followed the channel lately, you know my recent crosses have been frustratingly male heavy. Consequently, seeing a 1-to-1 distribution is a breath of fresh air and gives us a much larger sample size for both sexes to analyze. So looking at the females first, 14 expressed the half-black trait, while the remaining 10 were pure Snow Whites. The half-black females were particularly striking. They've seemingly inherited their mother's excellent form and deep contrast, which serves as a great visual anchor for the line. The males followed a similar trend, with 12 expressing half-black and 10 presenting as Snow Whites. Because some of these males are still quite young, they haven't yet developed the darker, saturated coloration seen in their unique uncle from Cross 16. However, the foundation of the trait is clearly visible, even at this early stage. When we aggregate the entire brood, we get a final tally of 26 half-blacks to 20 Snow Whites, a 57 to 43% split. While there is a slight lean towards the dominant trait, it is remarkably close to our predicted 50-50 ratio. Therefore, we have real-world confirmation that C16AF is indeed heterozygous for half-black. This validates the Mendelian math and proves that the theoretical inheritance we mapped out on the Punnett square is exactly what is happening in the water. While this brood is visually stunning, it wasn't without its setbacks. I discovered 4 half-black males presenting with a strange bubble-like formation in their caudal fins. My initial research pointed towards lymphocystis, but the visual symptoms don't perfectly align with the typical cauliflower-like growths associated with that virus. Because the origin of this condition is unclear, whether it's a rare genetic mutation or a viral infection, I have removed these individuals from the system entirely. If it is genetic, I am shielding the gene pool from inheritance. If it is viral, I am limiting the rest from exposure. Consequently, Only the most resilient specimens remained to carry the line. Beyond the bubble anomaly, I had to remove 5 additional guppies that were struggling with sunken bellies or lethargy. This brought our total unhealthy count to 9 out of 46, roughly 20% of the brood. While this isn't an ideal survival rate, it is a realistic benchmark for a line that is being stabilized. Therefore, my underlying focus for future generations will be to relentlessly select for vigor to bring that percentage down into the single digits. Looking towards the future, I've hand-selected 4 of the highest quality half-black females to move into a specialized project. My goal is to pair them with males from Cross 26, which I suspect are carrying the half-black trait on their Y chromosome. By combining these X-linked females with Y-linked males, I am attempting to double stack the trait on both sex chromosomes to create what I'm calling a Super Halfblack Snow White male. As for the rest of the brood, the remaining half-blacks have already found homes through local auctions, while the Snow White females are staying here to mature so I can select the best candidates for the next phase. Finally, I'm monitoring the Snow White males for a specific trait, aging grace. I've noticed that as some males, including Umaroth, get older, their fin edges become tapered and frayed. This could be a nutritional deficiency, but there is a strong possibility that it is a genetic weakness in fin integrity. So I am faced with a delicate balancing act. I must allow these males to mature long enough to screen for these late onset defects. Yet, I can't wait so long that they pass their reproductive prime. It's a narrow window of selection. But by observing how the Cross 16 males were maintaining their form, I'm confident we can select for a line that stays beautiful much longer. That wraps up our analysis for Cross 21. Despite a few deformities and technical hurdles, this was a successful brood that provides a strong foundation for the next phase of the project. I am eager to see if the females actually develop their mother's superior finnage as they mature, because their genetics will be vital for the Super Halfblack goals we've set. Therefore, we're moving straight into Cross 22 for the next video. It's a pairing phenotypically similar to this one, but with a twist. We're using a Snow White male from Cross 18, one of Umaroth's own sons, to keep the lineage moving forward. Before we head out, here is a quick lightning round status update on the rest of my crosses. Crosses 23 and 24. Both have dropped their first broods. However, we did lose the mother of Cross 24 shortly after. On a brighter note, Cross 23 is already onto its second drop. Cross 25. The second brood is thriving, and I've already begun the process of sexing out the males. Cross 26. We have 2 broods on the ground with clear half-black expression, but as is common with this line, I'm still having a difficult time definitively identifying the males at this size. Cross 27. These broods are on the smaller side. Consequently, the data will be limited, but we do have 2 drops currently growing out. If you want to see the prequel to today's video and understand exactly how the half-black inheritance differed when the male was the carrier, you should definitely check out the Cross 16 journey right here. It provides the necessary context for the X-linked theory we showed today. Thanks for following along with the project, and I'll see you in the next one.